make an astute analysis of power. For if we do not understand corporate power and how it works, then we will not effectively fight it. We must do what all of the great movements have done throughout American history. All of those movements that have opened up the space in our democracy. When you write a course proposal in a prison, it's very different from writing a course proposal that seeks to entice undergraduates at Princeton into your seminar. Because you have to get it by prison authorities. I turned in a proposal to teach American history, our Constitution, the three branches of government, and it was approved. And then I gave all of my students Howard Zinn's The People History of the United States. The brilliance of that book is that Zinn explained that our system was designed as a closed system, one that was meant to protect the property rights of white men, and especially slaveholders, women, African Americans, Native Americans, even men without property were excluded. And then they threw in the Electoral College, and that's how Al Gore can win 500,000 more votes than George W. Bush, and George W. Bush becomes president. Had nothing to do with Ralph Nader, by the way. Zinn chronicles that long, bloody struggle on the part of working men in this country to create the 40-hour work week, to end child labor, to provide safe working conditions in factories and mines, and they paid for it with their blood. Hundreds of American workers died, were murdered in the labor wars in this country, which were the bloodiest in the industrialized world. Thousands were wounded. Tens of thousands were blacklisted. All of those movements that created our democracy, the suffragists, the Liberty Party that fought slavery, the civil rights movement, and all of them understood something we've forgotten. It is not our job to take power. It is our job to stand fast around a moral imperative and make power frightened of us. The last liberal president we had was Richard Nixon, not because he was a liberal or had a conscience, but because he was frightened of movements. The Mine and Safety Act, the Clean Water Act, OSHA, all written by Nader, were passed by Nixon. There's a moment in Kissinger's memoirs, do not buy the book, where it's 1971 and there are thousands of anti-war demonstrators around the White House, and Nixon has put empty city buses end to end as barricades around the White House, and he looks out the window and he says to Kissinger, "Henry, they're going to break through the barricades and get us." And that's just where people in power have to be. Of course, history's rewritten. This ridiculous film about Lincoln and emancipation that manages to erase Frederick Douglass. Roosevelt, who came out of the oligarchic class, was confronted by the old CIO, the Communist Party, the Progressive Party, all of these radical movements that said, if you do not react to the suffering of the American people, then you will get revolution. And Roosevelt went to his fellow oligarchs and he said, you better give up some of your money or you're not going to have any of your money. And that's how we got a government program that created 15 million jobs and Social Security and public works and the public theater. It was not because of the tender-heartedness of the capitalist class. It was because they were frightened. They were frightened. And that's our job. As Julian Benda in The Treason of the Intellectuals says, we have a choice in life between serving privilege and power or justice and truth. And the more we compromise with those who serve privilege and power, the more we diminish the capacity for justice and truth. The state is fearful. It knows how corrupt it is. Those on Wall Street understand cynically what's happening. They are stealing and looting as fast as they can on the way down, believing they can retreat into their little gated compounds and somehow survive. The very idea that you build a society based on the dictates of the marketplace is insanity. And yet these forces have total control over our lives and over our future. I'm not naive enough to stand here and tell you we can win. Even if we stopped all carbon emissions today, we would struggle with catastrophic effects of climate change. But I am here to tell you that we have a moral responsibility for those who come after us, that even if we fail, we must stand up so that they can look back at us and say they tried. Immanuel Kant said, if justice perishes, human life on earth has lost its meaning. And that's finally what I'm calling for. A life of meaning. No longer accepting these forces of death that will doom us and doom the future of our children. Rebellion, doing anything we can to disrupt the mechanisms that seek to destroy the world around us. And that requires us to be in the street, and it requires us to go to jail. I don't like going to jail. It's more time than I care to donate to my government. And yet it is that moral imperative. I don't, finally, fight fascists because I will win. I fight fascists because they are fascists. Thank you.